Hello everyone, welcome back to the Bookcase of Doom. I'm Jane, that's Alice, she's asleep. So, I mainly read standalone books. I like series, but every single time I start a new series, it's stressful for me because it's a big time commitment, and especially if it's an ongoing series, I always get nervous about the fact that I have to wait for the next books to come out. So, reading series is a big problem for me. And I have a bunch of series that I need to start, that I'm not probably going to finish, and that I need to finish. That's going to be 3 separate videos, and this is the first one, series I need to finish. There's 23 on this list, so let's go. I don't have the physical copies of all of them with me because not even all of my books are living with me right now, but we'll get through all of them no matter what. Let's start with the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. Here are the 3 books that I have read, and 2 more I have they are over there somewhere, and 2 more that I need to buy. This is one of my favorite series of all time. It's about Geralt of Rivia, who is a Witcher, if you've never heard of this series. Witchers are special people who have been trained from birth, using special magic and special training techniques to battle monsters in this fantasy world. It is incredibly political. It is very unusually written, and I know that Geralt as a character annoys a lot of people because they say that he's like a self-insert of what the author would like to be, and that he's a dick. And yeah, he's a dick, but he's a delightful character to read about. I love Yennefer. I love Jaskier and just all the characters in it and the world and just the things that happen. It's beautiful. And I still have, 4 books to go in this series? That doesn't daunt me though, because it's going to be hell of a good time. Number 2 on my list is The Wolves of Mercy Falls. The whole series is over there somewhere, buried. I can't. I tried to find it, but there's just, look at this. It's not that, it's not good to go in there looking for things because it's going to topple over and bury me one day. So The Wolves of Mercy Falls is a young adult urban fantasy about werewolves. It's written by Mandy Seawater, and I read it after I liked The Raven Cycle the second time around. I listened to the first 2 books on audiobook, and then I decided to buy myself a physical copy of the series and try again. I have the physical copy now, but I think I want to buddy read it with someone, so maybe soon I'll find myself a buddy read and we can read it together. Then we've got The Skullduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy. It's a great urban fantasy series as well. Can you not try and lick makeup off my face, my love? Please? I don't have like a lot, but you're gonna have a mouthful of glitter. So Skullduggery Pleasant is a urban fantasy series written by Derek Landy. Things happen in Dublin. The main character, he is a detective who is also a mage, who is also a skeleton. And he becomes friends with this 12-year-old girl who grows up throughout the series. There's 12 books, I think, or 10 in the original series. And then there's the second one that Derek Landy is working on right now. And I read, I think, 4 of the books from the first series. They are delightful. They're very fun. The characters are so snarky, and all of the characters are so interesting. The banter and the plot is so... The plot is kind of like silly and fun, but just the characters and their interactions with each other make it so worth it. Then number 4, we've got the Stephen Fry Mythology series. This is the first one, Mythos. This is Greek myths retold by Stephen Fry. The second one is Heroes, about heroes from Greek mythology. And the third one is Troy, that came out a couple years ago. I desperately wanted it, and I bought it when it came out, and I still haven't read them. Because I keep putting off books that I know I'm going to like, and it's just, stop doing that. Stop doing that. Don't do it the way I do. Do the way I say. Read the books that you want to read first. Don't put them off for such a long time. The second and third book from the series are over there as well somewhere. I can't find them. Then we've got The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. This is the first book. And we've got Night Country somewhere over there as well. The second one. I read this about 5 years ago now. First when it came out. I actually won this in a giveaway on Instagram. That's the first thing I won ever. And I was so happy. And it turned out to be 4 stars. I loved it, and I can't wait to read the second one, but I think I'm actually going to need to skim this one at least to remember some of the details from the first one. Then we've got The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. Jessie Burton is one of my favorite modern English writers. The Miniaturist is the story of Nell Ortman, who is 17 years old. She gets married to this very rich merchant in 17th century Amsterdam, which for some reason is one of the most interesting time periods and places to read for me about historical fiction. She has to get married. She has to learn how to be the mistress of the house, and her husband is very mysterious. They don't spend any time together, and for their wedding, he gives her a dollhouse with all the miniatures of their house that they live in, and she starts to order little miniatures from a miniaturist to fill the house with. The second book came out a couple years ago as well. It's called The House of Fortune, and I can't wait to read it, but I have been putting it off because I know that it's going to be very dramatic and hard on my heart, and I'm not ready, I don't think. The next series is Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. The first book from the series is called Oryx and Crake, and there are two more in the series. I have the third one called Mad Adam, and the second one, I always forget the name of it, but I haven't been able to locate it in any bookshops anywhere. I might have to read it on my Kindle just so that I can move on with the series. It's a science fiction series about a man who lives in the fallout of a world that his best friend created with his science experiments. He talks about the world moving through it and having to survive in it. And actually, the first book kind of ends on a very nice spot. It's not a cliffhanger, so if you don't feel like you want to read two more books in the series, you don't have to. But I do. I really want to know what happens there. And it's, I think, my favorite Margaret Atwood book so far. I haven't read a lot of hers, but I love it much more than The Handmaid's Tale. Number 8, we've got the Sprawl series by William Gibson. It's the Neuromancer books. First one is Neuromancer. The second one is, Mona Lisa Overdrive? And is the third one just called The Sprawl? I don't remember. I have them in another place. I don't have them on hand right now. And I only read the first one, and I want to reread it again and then read the second and the third, because William Gibson, as the inventor of the cyberpunk genre, can be a little hard to understand sometimes. He really gets into the nitty-gritty of all the technology invented in this world and all the things that happen, but he doesn't explain them a lot, so you have to kind of forget where you live and when you live and completely dive into that world to understand what is even going on. It is about this man whose job is a neuromancer. He goes into the Sprawl, which is this huge internet-like web to which everyone in the world is connected, to hack things. He meets these other people. He meets Molly Millions from Johnny Mnemonic, if you've read that short story. And there are so many very interesting adventures. I read the short story collection Burning Chrome from the same universe, and it's one of my favorite short story collections of all time. Number 9, we have the Detective Karen Pirie series by Val McDermid. The reason why I'm reading that, there's, I think, 7 or 6 books in that series right now, and it is like a generic police detective mystery series, which is not something that I read a lot. But the reason why I'm reading that series is because a few years ago, at a corporate New Year's party, after I got a really good bonus at my then job and got very, very drunk on champagne at that party, I ordered a bunch of books for myself while being hugely drunk. And one of them was Broken Ground, which was number 5 in the Detective Karen Pirie series. I have no idea why I had it on my book depository wish list and why I didn't realize that it was number 5 in a series. So when it arrived, I looked at it and I said, well, I guess I gotta read the first 4 now. And I read the first book, and it was actually a really, really well-crafted detective mystery. Because Val McDermid, as it turns out, worked in law enforcement. She really knows what she's talking about. She's got this very interesting, delightful voice. I've read one other book by her since then. It was a historical fiction, which has nothing to do with detectives. I've got a video on my channel, by the way, about that, where I'm reading Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen and Val McDermid at the same time. And I just now need to collect all the other books from the 1st to the 5th and read them. And I'm going to finish that series eventually. Number 10, I Feed Her to the Beast and the Beast is Me by Jameson Shea. I just finished this a couple months ago. I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. Second book is coming out this year, and I am going to pre-order it as soon as I have some little bit disposable income. I cannot wait to read it. I think there's only going to be 2 books in the series, and I'm going to miss these characters so much. I feel like I'm going to be rereading this a lot. Number 11 is The Thursday Morning Club by Richard Osman. I read the first book, and I loved it. I loved all the characters. It's about these septuagenarian people living in a retirement community, solving crimes and becoming friends with policemen, and it was delightful. I really want to be best friends with all of these characters. There is 3 more books in the series at the moment. I don't know if there's going to be a 5th, but I cannot wait to acquire them all and read them. It's going to be amazing. I heard quite a lot of people saying that this is boring, and I kind of can understand why, because it has a very calm writing style, but at the same time, I think all the emotion that went into it makes up for anything like that. Now I'm going to show you some graphic novels that I need to finish. This is Monstrous by Sana Takeda and Marjorie Liu. This is about Micah Huffwolf, this woman right here. She is of a magical race in this world where magical races war with human races, and she has a monster living inside of her. There's political intrigue. The art style, it's not just a beautiful cover. All of it is like that. It's incredibly beautiful and just hits you right in the feels. I already started the 2nd tome. I think there's 7 of them right now out, and I really, really want to read all of them. Graphic novels are so expensive. The next graphic novel series that I have here is Saga. I already read the 1st tome, and I do not have any others because they're so expensive. This is about these 2 people. They are soldiers who defected from their respective armies because their races are at war, but they fell in love and they had a little baby. And now everybody is looking for them, trying to kill them. Then I've got The Power of the Dark Crystal. There are 3 books in this graphic novel series. I don't know where the first one is, probably on my red shelves. But I read the first one, and now I need to finish the 2nd and the 3rd one. It is about, I don't know, 1,000 years or 500 years after the events of the Dark Crystal movie. And I absolutely love the Dark Crystal movie. This has a delightful art style. We meet all the old characters that we loved, and we meet some very nice new ones, and it's just lovely. It's very sweet and beautiful and fantasy. Number 15, we've got Sorceline. This is a French graphic novel by Sylvia Douet and Paul Antista, and it's very, very beautiful. It's very sweet. It's actually I think it's middle grade. It's about this young girl called Sorceline who goes to a special school where they teach you how to care for magical creatures. And magical creatures are my favorite trope. It's incredible. I read it in like 10 minutes, but it's just so nice and so lovely. And I think if you have little ones in your life that you want to introduce to reading and fantasy, this series actually could be a good one. The next one, we've got The Dauntless Path. That is a series where the first book is called Thorn by Intisar Kanani. Thorn is a retelling of the Goose Girl fairy tale, and I've never read the Goose Girl, so every single plot twist in that book was a surprise to me. I cried once. It was incredibly well written. It was so good. I have no idea why nobody's talking about it. And I didn't know that there was a continuation, but I suppose it kind of hints that there could be a continuation at the end of the book. If you read Goose Girl, maybe you'll like that. Did you know that Beloved by Toni Morrison is part of a series? They are not plot connected, but there are 3 books that she wrote as part of one series. The first one is called Beloved, the second one is called Jazz, and the third one is called Paradise. And I think they are all about the struggles of love from the synopses that I read about the 2nd and 3rd book. I have never seen them in bookshops, but as soon as I do, I'm buying them and I'm reading them. Beloved kicked my ass, but I loved it and I think about it constantly, so I really want to read these 2 books as well. And then we've got The Haunting of Evelyn Jones by Phil Hicks. How to pronounce this surname, I don't know. I think I can't say Hicks because it sounds like Phil Higgs, and the comedian, and I keep thinking about it. So this is a middle grade horror about Evelyn who goes to her aunt in Cornwall for Halloween, and weird and scary things start happening in this little seaside town. It was so good and so genuinely spooky quite a few times. There are 2 more books in the series, and I really, really want them for this autumn. Then we've got this book right here, Vampires Never Get Old, Tales with Fresh Bite, edited by Zoraida Cordova and Natalie C. Parker. This is an anthology of short stories about vampires, and I loved it so desperately, even though there were a couple stories here that I read and just, why? But there are 2 more books in the series, one about fairies and one about mermaids. Mermaids are my favorite magical creature, and I am nuts about the fact that these 2 books exist. My best friend Sam loves fairies and I love mermaids, So I think when I find the fairy book, I'm going to order it for Sam, and maybe we're going to buddy read it together. Sam, are you watching? What do you think about this? The next one we've got is Interview with a Vampire series by Anne Rice. I only read the first book. I absolutely loved it. I know that Anne Rice was a very strange lady, but the vampire book was so damn good. I think I want to read more of them, but I know that there's not going to be much of Louis in the next books. He was just in the first one, and he was my favorite character, so I don't know if I'm going to enjoy the rest of the books as much as I did the first one. Then we've got the Aaron Falk detective series by Jane Harper. Is it Jane Harper? Yeah, I think so. The first one is called The Dry. I really enjoyed it. It's an Australian detective series about Aaron Falk. He's just a police detective who, solves crimes. In the first book, he goes to his hometown to solve a crime from like 20 years ago. And in the second one, these 4 or 5 women go into the wilderness on a camping thing, and I think one of them doesn't come out, or only one of them comes back out, and he has to solve that. Sorry, my camera died. I'm back now. I think I was talking about the Aaron Falk series by Jane Harper, right? So it's a detective series. I read the first book, and I think there's 2 more right now. Definitely, and I don't know if there's going to be any more, but it was very interesting. It's an Australian mystery. The mystery in The Dry was pretty usual from what I read before, but I think that the next one is supposed to be very, very good, and the writing was excellent, so I'm interested in reading the next books. The next one, number 23, no, that's number 25 or 26, I already lost count, is the Stephen Fry memoir series. I read the first one. The first one is called Mob is My Washpot, and the second one is The Fry Chronicles, which I have somewhere over there as well, buried. And I think there's 3 books in his memoirs right now, and I love them. I love Stephen Fry. I love finding out about his life. That's just very enjoyable for me. Then we've got the How To series by Ruth Goodman. This is a series of historical books about how to be a person of a certain time period. The first one is called How to Be a Victorian, and I loved it so desperately. It's about the lives of regular working class people in the Victorian period. Ruth Goodman is a tremendous historian. She does all of this research. She lives like those people lived. She goes very in depth into everything that she does about history. And this one is the second one, How to Be a Tudor. I'm going to read this very soon, I think, and I am so incredibly excited for this. Then we've got Radiance and Eidolon. The third book is called
One Eternity Later.
Wait, what is it called? I can't remember. Here it is. It's about 2 side characters from these 2 books, and I'm very excited to read that one. I don't know if it's gonna be anytime soon. I'm gonna read it on Kindle, even though I would love a physical copy. The Ippos King. It's called The Ippos King. You can probably already read it on the screen, but I just remembered. It's not specifically, like, you don't have to read it, because these 2 are a finished story, but there's more to the world and more to the other characters from this story in The Ippos King. So I am going to enjoy it so much, because the 2 characters that book is about are amazing. I'm not gonna spoil for you what the third one is about in case you are planning on reading these ones. And hopefully the last one, hopefully I haven't forgotten anything, is Gideon the Ninth series. Don't remember what it's called. It's called The Necromancers of something something. Oh no, it's called The Locked Tomb Trilogy. How did I forget that? Why did I think it was called Necromancers or something? Because it's about necromancers. I read Gideon the Ninth and I loved it. It broke my heart. I keep thinking about it. And the second book, I've been putting off getting it, first of all, because I can only get it in one shop in the city, and it's incredibly expensive. It's like $40 for the second book. And I just know that the ending of this book, what this ending means for the second one, is going to be very emotionally taxing for me. So I really don't know when I'm gonna read that one. But yeah, that's all the series that I need to finish, that I want to finish, and definitely will eventually, someday. Send help. Please tell me about all the series that you read. If you like reading series, if you prefer standalones, like, comment, subscribe, all of those stuff. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna see you soon with the next video in the series about series. Slava Ukraini!